Hi, and welcome to the Health Begins with Mom show. I am Dorit Palvanov, your host. On this podcast, I will share insights and interviews on health, parenting, and explore the question of what does it take to thrive as women, wives, and mothers. Now, let's get going with today's episode. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Health Begins with Mom podcast. This is Dorit Palvanov, your host. If you've been following this podcast for a while, then you know that this is a show where we talk about the intersection between the different aspects of health, whether it is physical, emotional, mental or spiritual health, motherhood, and also parenting. And if I could sum it up in one sentence, it is really about figuring out a way how we, women, wives, and mothers, can create beautiful and healthy homes, raise good children, run successful businesses, make a ton of money, and have a meaningful impact on the world. All of this without killing ourselves in the process and without getting sick, and actually thrive. So is it even possible? And I truly believe that it is. And at the end of the day, it is really all about having the right mindset, creating a sustainable framework, and lifestyle for yourself. And also it all comes down to choice. And one thing that is coming up again and again in my coaching calls with mothers is the struggle of juggling and balancing everything. And the hardest thing is always raising these kids, right? How do I take care of myself, right? Because I always talk about putting yourself first, not sacrificing yourself, not, this martyrdom or putting yourself on the altar. All of that doesn't work. So how do I take care of myself? How do I put myself first without feeling like I'm screwing up my kids? It's so hard. And so today on the podcast, I'm chatting with DiSciullo, who is a certified parent trainer by the Parent Encouragement Program and also a certified life coach. And her company provides parent coaching classes and also live workshops in the Summit, New Jersey area that result in parents having increased confidence, children becoming more competent, and stronger families. I'm super excited for this conversation. I have no idea where it's going to go. So let's just welcome Lisa to the show. Hi, Lisa. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for having me.
So before we dive deeper, I know you have older kids, but I'm still curious to know, what are you loving about being a mom right now?
The thing I love the most about being the mom right now, my kids are in their 20s, is that they love to come home and hang out with us. And that was one of my dreams, is that they would make time in their lives once they were independent, to really include my husband and I. And we have a great time together. All three of them are in significant romantic relationships, and we love the people they've chosen. And so it feels really good.
Oh, when you say that, that's like, I keep thinking like, oh my gosh, that's what I want. That's all I want. Like just having them back, not without like feeling like they are completely dependent on me.
Yeah.
Like I want them to be able to come back to me when they need us, but without like feeling like they're 100% dependent on us spiritually, emotionally, physically, or like I just want them to. I love that. I'm so excited for you that you have that. It must be really nice.
Yeah, it's really great. I mean, the fact that we just all love each other and love being together. Like we actually take a vacation together, and they're in jobs where they get 2 weeks of vacation per year, and they take a week of it just to spend with the family, and everybody looks forward to it all year.
Oh, so that's great. That's success right there. That's it. Check mark. You can take that off. Okay, great. So I'm curious, how did you get to do the work that you now do in the world?
So 16 years ago, I was a frustrated, frazzled, chaotic mom, and our family was chaotic. And one of my children at that time was really struggling academically. And when when I took him for the whole battery of tests and said, they came back and gave recommendations and said, this is what you need to do for him to help him be successful in school. I said, great, what can you do for me? Because I feel like a failure as a parent at this point in time. And they pointed me to an organization, a nonprofit in DC called the Parent Encouragement Program. And all they do is parenting classes. And so I started taking classes and realized that I needed a new perspective on what the goal of parenting was. And I also needed some more skills because parenting has changed, from the way I was raised. And so I needed some new tools. And when I started using the tools, my entire family totally changed. And I was kind of hooked. I had been a corporate trainer in my professional life, so I learned how to teach the programs. I taught for them for 5 years. And when we moved to New Jersey 4 years ago, they licensed me as a trainer up here as a contractor. So I can teach their programs and then as well as certified as a life coach, so I can do the parent coaching. So I'm a big believer, and my children would not be where they are today.
Yes.
Had I not done that.
100%. I believe you. I totally believe you. That's why this podcast is called Health Begins with Mom, because it believes with mom taking the stand and choosing to start shifting things, right? It really becomes, it begins with this decision, this choice. Right. So I really commend you for that. Mm-hmm. So, on the show, I've had different parenting coaches and mindful coaches and different people who really serve people in my target market, people who are moms who are obviously struggling with all of these things. But when we connected and I asked you, what are the questions that parents ask you the most? You told me that, parents ask you, what's wrong with these kids today? Why aren't they respectful? And how do I manage screen times? And how do we teach children to take responsibility? And I love that because I feel like, as a mom who I don't know, I like to think of myself as someone who is pretty mindful. It's not like I just kind of, raise them and hope for the best. I do the work that is necessary. And having done all of that, it's still so hard. It's like I still do struggle with just getting them to do things like, whether it's helping around the house, they're doing their homework, making their bed or just taking care of themselves. So I guess the first question I'm going to ask you is, and I hate that question because I do not believe that there's anything wrong with kids, but I'm still going to ask you, what is wrong with kids today? Why is it so hard? Why don't they listen? Why do I have to ask them to do something a million times? Like, what is going on in this dynamic? Just tell us, what is going on?
Yeah. So what it comes down to is that many of us were raised in a family where we were told what to do and we just went and did it because we just accepted that, the parents are the authority and, they're running the show here. And so we just need to do what they do. But society has changed. We've had all these, equality movements between the civil rights movement and the women getting the right to vote. And now, the latest is, same-sex marriage. And, we're treating everybody with equality. And so our children are expecting us, to stop telling them what to do and allowing them to kind of, take hold of themselves and manage themselves in an age-appropriate way, obviously. So, one of my biggest tips for parents is stop telling them what to do and start asking them what they think they need to do. So let's say you're getting ready to go to school, and they're sitting there and their backpack's next to them and their shoes are not on, but they think they're ready. So they're playing on an iPad or they're, reading a book or something. And instead of saying, get your shoes on and grab your backpack and let's go, because you probably have to repeat that 6 times, just start with, it's time to go. What do you need to do to get ready? And be there next to them, looking them in the eye, saying that, And then when they say, oh, I just need to get my shoes on my backpack, say, okay, I'll meet you in the car, and go to the car. So you're kind of engaging them to manage themselves rather than what I see parents doing all the time, and I did it myself. It's hard not to do it, is just giving them direction after direction after direction. And what that communicates to them is, if you're going to repeat it 5 times, you don't really mean business the first time you say it. And the other thing is, I don't really think you're capable of managing this, so I have to keep telling you.
Right.
But they do know. They know what needs to be done. So sometimes parents just have to get out of the way and let them do it.
Yeah, I say that all the time. We really have to believe that and just trust that they want to do good. Like, why is it that we think and we're so convinced that they are mean and they just want to make our life miserable, even though it feels like that? But no, it's true. It's so true. So it's really about reframing that and shifting the way we ask for things. So I love your suggestions. It's time to go. What do you need to get ready? Because it empowers them. Do you have other suggestions? What are some other things we can do? For example, I can tell you an example of something that I personally struggle with is in the morning. Like, it takes my daughter literally an hour and a half to get ready. Like, it's so long. How do I help her to want to get ready, to just, come down without me needing to remind her a million times? What are some other things that I can try?
Right. So first of all, how old is she?
She's 8.
8. Okay. So do you have a routine?
I do. Yeah, we do have a routine. It's pretty steady every single day, the same exact thing. Yeah.
And is it written down, or is there any visual of it, or is it just in your mind?
So we started with the visual. So I had like a table that I printed off so they can check off. And just, I don't know, I guess we moved to a new house and I haven't, I don't have anything written anymore.
Okay. So what I would say, that's a great start that you had one before, and now, especially if you're in a new house, it's kind of time to update that. One of the things I would suggest too is that you sit down and have a conversation about, what is the routine, and get her expectations of what she thinks the routine is, and then together work on something. Actually, turn it as much as you can over to her and let her create her own chart. So, and there are lots of ideas on how to do that. You can take pictures of her brushing her teeth or her getting dressed and, put them on a poster board. She could draw pictures. She could cut pictures out of a magazine. She could, just write it out. There's lots of different ways, but let her put her creative spin on it and have that be her chart. And chart's actually not the right word. I don't recommend that you have a chart where they check off things, because that's focusing more on performance than it is on just the sequence of things. Because really the goal with the routine is maybe to get out of the house on time, not to gain perfection and 100%, perfection day after day after day. It's really about, are we getting into the car on time? Now, maybe the hair's not brushed just right, or, whatever might be age appropriate. That's okay. But if you're getting out of the house and getting to school on time, you're achieving your goal.
Yeah, but here's the thing for me. I feel like we are getting into the car on time. The thing is that for the most days are okay, but some days I see the disappointment or I just see that she's not happy on her, I see that she's just not happy. And how do I do that? How do I get her in the car, while I engage her in a way that feels good? I want her to start her day off in a good way.
So a lot of times what I see, and I don't know if this is what's happening, but a lot of times what I see is that parents are reminding, right. And then finally kind of like gathering the whole family and everybody's getting in the car at the same time. And it's like a victory for the parent, because they've been responsible for getting everybody in the car. So what that feels like to the kids is, okay, I did what mommy wants, and they don't feel any empowerment of having any role in that process except just doing what mom told them to do. So with the routine chart, I would suggest turning as much of it over to her. So, when kids can start managing a timeline, you just say, okay, at 8:00, I'm going to be in the car waiting for you. I'll see you then. And you're sitting in the car at 8:00. And when they walk out, they've managed their process. So it's a victory for them that they've gotten themselves into the car. So that's kind of the goal. The more we take responsibility for managing them to get there, the less opportunity they have to grow and learn how to take responsibility for themselves.
Yeah, 100%. I really agree, but it's so hard.
I know. So you have to start small, and you have to start with one thing at a time. So it might be that getting dressed might be, the first thing you tackle. And then getting breakfast might be the next thing you tackle. And then the third thing might be the actual timeline of what do you do between breakfast and getting in the car. And you also have to be very tolerant of them not being successful every time. They might be late getting in the car, and then what will happen? And managing the consequences of that appropriately, not in a punitive way, but in a way that's encouraging them to try again tomorrow.
Right. A lot of my clients, and I totally admit that I am a recovering control freak. A lot of us are just like, control freaks and wanting everything to be like we want it to be. And when it doesn't go the way we want, it's, we freak out. So I totally understand. I totally get where you're coming from. And it's true. We have to really believe and trust that, it's all okay, and they want what's good for them too, and for us too. They want to please us. It's really about just, remembering to breathe in the moment.
Right.
I also wanted to ask you, it's related a little bit to that. How do I not raise? That's something that triggers me a lot. How do I not raise spoiled brats?
Okay. So kids that are spoiled tend to be kids that are pampered, and that a lot of things are done for them. So it's the same theme of train them to do things for themselves, give them the opportunity to do things for themselves by turning it over to them, and then give them feedback on it by encouraging their progress in that. So kids that are spoiled, and what I think is so interesting is that we use this word spoiled because it's the same word that we use for milk that's been out on the counter too long. It goes sour. And so kids that are spoiled are kind of sour. And we don't want that. And so what it takes is training them and then letting them, rise to the occasion. So take, for example, let's say, I'll go back to the morning routine, the breakfast routine. As soon as they can, pour some milk and some cereal for themselves, they can actually be getting their own breakfast. So you train them how to do that. You train them how to put their dish in the sink. You train them how to pour their orange juice. You give them some opportunities, and then you let them manage it themselves. And sure, there are going to be spills here and there. So you train them how to wipe it up, So, and I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah.
So what happens is they become more and more capable, and you kind of underline that or note that to them. I noticed you've been getting your breakfast every morning this week. How does that feel? And they're getting stronger and stronger and able to take care of themselves. And that will be assurance that they're not going to be the spoiled brats. The other thing that I've seen in our society these days is that parents are so focused on academics and achievement in school and clubs and, being the best at everything, that they don't require their children or even teenagers to do any work around the house or be part of the family or contribute to the group in any way. And that's very, very discouraging to kids. in two ways. One, it communicates, I as a parent don't think you can handle this. Like you're not good enough for this, or you're not capable enough for this. And then the other piece of it is once they go off to college, they have no idea how to feed themselves, how
Right.
to manage their hygiene and their clothes. And, although they could be straight A students at a top school, they, are not succeeding in life. So it's important to be training them in all aspects of life, not just how to get the best grades.
Right. I also wanted to ask you this question because a lot of the people who listen to this podcast are, for the most part, conscious mothers who, are rising up and becoming more aware and more mindful. And I don't know if you're familiar with the work of Dr. Shefali Sabari. We are open to looking at ourselves in order to see how the way that we are showing up is affecting our children, either in a positive or a negative way. So a lot of us are women who are doing a lot of work, a lot of personal growth work on ourselves. And so there is this challenge with, I don't know, sort of like figuring out what's the best way to encourage children. What's the best way to praise them? You know what I mean? So for example, I love telling my kids that they are children of God, that they're special, that they're unique, not because they're better than others, but just because they are, special. And I truly believe in that. But then the problem that happens is that I see that the more I sort of highlight that, the more entitled they feel like they are to things, right? And so there is this almost like a fine line between, highlighting their humanity and that, their worth as human beings, and between raising children, humans who are growing up to be feeling like they're entitled and deserving of things, right? And so it's going back to that conversation about how do I not raise spoiled brats. I don't know if you've seen that TED Talk or the video on YouTube that Simon Sinek did, and he spoke about millennials and how they're feeling entitled to things. So maybe you can talk also about that. How do I sort of like navigate between that? How do I praise them in a way that is authentic, encouraging, but also allowing them to take responsibility for themselves?
I love this question. And yes, I love what Simon Sinek said about the millennials and this whole idea of entitlement. And I'll just kind of describe it, conceptually first. All of the work that I do is based on the work of Alfred Adler, and I'm an Adlerian, if you will. He was a psychologist that worked with Freud, and one of the premises of his work is that the goal of all human behavior is the desire to belong to a group, to belong to the family, to be able to contribute and to be valued. And so kind of the way I visualize the work that I do is the traditional structure of the family is these two parents at the top, and then below, 1, 2, or 3 kids, kind of in a triangle. And after people start working with me, that shape of that family changes into more of a circle where there are connections between each member of the family with each other member of the family. So the idea is that you are worthy because you were born into this world and you are a human being and you're born into this family. So in my family, you're a DiSciullo. You're one of us and you're worthy and you're special and unique, because you're you. And the way to develop that is that every member of the family takes part in the family, participates. So that means that they get to participate in the wealth of the family. So maybe you give allowances, They participate in the work of the family. So everybody has a role and everybody has ways to contribute. And that can be the 3-year-old who takes the plastic cups out of the dishwasher, to help her out around the house, to the teenager who's mowing the lawn or washing the car or, whatever needs to be done. And so it's this idea that we all matter here. We're all living together. We're all contributing. And we're doing that. We're not doing it equally in terms of the amount of time because they're different capabilities in terms of age. But we're all, giving what we can to the group. And what that does is it creates a respect for each other, a respect for the work and the effort that it takes just to get through life. And it gives children and the parents an opportunity to take responsibility for themselves and for the group. So we're a team. So if you think about if you were ever on a team, let's say a sports team or a team at work, and 2 or 3 people are doing most of the work, and you're sitting there not really having much to do, you feel disconnected, you don't feel committed, you're not going to be loyal to the goal or to the outcome, and you're probably somewhat discouraged, like, I'm not really worth being here, like, what's the point? But if everybody has a role and everybody's engaged and everybody's contributing, it is like this energy, it's amazing. And if you've ever been on a team that's really, truly a high-performing team like that, you love the people on the team. And that's the same thing as the family.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Yeah, 100%. Having said that, I do think that it requires the parents to be more of like project managers and to be leaders, right? Like being a team, it's sort of like putting myself on the same, I don't know, like, as my job as a parent, does it equal my children? Like, it's not really in terms of like, I don't know, value, or in terms of worth, or in terms of the amount of work that we do. I mean, like, it doesn't make any sense that my kids will feel a part of the team. Like they cannot really feel equal in a family setting. So right. I do see how, even though I'm trying to create a team and a team effort around here, there is some kind of hierarchy in our home.
Absolutely. And this idea of the parents being leaders, is absolutely true. So they are leading and guiding the family. It's their responsibility to kind of set some boundaries and to give the children freedom within those boundaries. And they're leading, but they're not directing. They're not over managing. And you do have to consider the ages at times, because obviously infants, don't have a big way to contribute, Yes. So the role of the parent kind of shifts as the children get older. So when they're, babies and kind of, preschool, the parents are managing, actually up to maybe age 2.5 or 3. The parents kind of manage everything. They diaper them, and they tell them when to eat and sleep, and, do everything for them. And then when they start kind of having their own opinions, 2.5 or 3, the parents can start, kind of incorporating some of that, giving them some choices, letting them have some practice and some decision making. And really through elementary school and, before adolescence, the parents become kind of the manager. So they set up the play dates or the rides to and from school, or, that kind of thing, but still giving the kids some choice within that. And then when they become teenagers, the parent really needs to take on a role of more as consultant, so the children have had some practice making some decisions, and they continue taking on more and more independence. And their job really through the teenage years is to become independent, to separate and to find their own unique identity. And so the parents are there as I'm here if you need some help or if you have some questions. And, I am still going to set some limits, although they're going to be bigger limits than they were when they were younger. But they become more of the role of the consultant. And yet they're still kind of leading and guiding.
Yeah, I love that, Lisa. Thank you so much. It's sort of like, how am I shifting from being a manager into the consultant and the coach, right? I love that.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. This show has two parts. I always do. I sort of like divide the interview into two parts. So the first part is really talking about your expertise. And the second part is about learning about you as a human being, as a woman, as a wife, as a mother, just to allow people to meet you on a more maybe intimate way. Are you open to that?
Absolutely.
All right. So I have a few questions. My first question is, because this show is all about inspiring mothers to thrive as women, as mothers, as wives, I like to call it being a goddess in your life. And so I'm curious to know, how are you being a goddess in your own life? How do you take care of yourself, your soul, your body? What are some of your non-negotiables?
That's a great question. So one thing I would say probably in the last 5 to 8 years is that I really feel like I've found my life work, which is this of being a parenting coach and working with parents. So and because my kids are launched, I have a little bit more free time. So one of the things I love to do is learn more about, what I'm doing business-wise. And I don't feel that burdens me. It like surprises me all the time. It's just, I really feel passionate about that. At the same time, I walk. I am really adamant about nutritional food and feeding my body appropriately. I am really committed to my family, my children and my extended family. I'm a care manager for my mother who has Alzheimer's. She's in a memory unit at an assisted living place, and I'm kind of on top of that and monitoring that, and at the same time being very aware of how to process and grieve that, because Alzheimer's is a 20-year grieving process. And I guess one of the other factors in my life, we just lost our dog a couple of months ago, and it was one of the most difficult things I ever had to go through. She's 15 years old, and the last week went really fast, and I guess I just think about her, and I don't know, was very attached to her, I guess.
Getting used to life without her. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It must be so difficult. Yeah. Lisa, in one sentence, what is your vision for your life? What are you creating? What is your life's purpose?
So my life's purpose is to help parents create more empowered children. So I, have personal, experience, connections with some people that have had some very tragic things, addictions, and people that did not feel empowered in their lives. And I know we have an epidemic of addiction, of opioid addictions. I think there's an epidemic of 20-somethings, millennials that are depressed. And I believe a lot of it has to do with being empowered or being discouraged or encouraged over their lives, and being able to develop resilience and strength. And I think that parents have an impact on that. So I feel like I'm contributing to that generation through working with the parents. And I really believe in strong families.
Yes, me too. All right. What advice does your now mom self would have given to your pre-mom self?
To have faith, to believe in yourself, have faith in your children that they are capable, to know that hard work really pays off, to be honest, to be honest with yourself and really tell the truth, and not to ignore things. I guess that's enough.
I love that. Yes, it's so true. All right. Next question. Moms should invest in themselves because?
Because they're worth it, and because they deserve it, and because they're somewhat of the glue. I know that probably feels burdensome to some moms, but I do believe that we have kind of been given this nurturing, ability to multitask, really caring, loving being, to nurture families and make society stronger. That is one of our roles, not at the expense of other work in life, but I do believe that that we can help really strengthen and build families.
100%. I'm right there with you. 100%.
Yeah.
So I like to keep it real and show listeners that even though someone is an expert in one area, they might be struggling with other things. So what are some of your current challenges as a woman, a wife, or a mother?
A woman, a wife, or a mother? Wow, I'm just in a really good place right now. So I guess probably my mother, just dealing with the fact that, she is not the woman that she used to be. And then also knowing, and like anybody who has a parent with Alzheimer's, knowing out of me and my 3 brothers, somebody else is likely to get it. And so that, that fear of, what we know is coming for somebody in our family can be very gripping sometimes. Yeah. So it's important to, try to stay positive, look at what I have control over and what I don't have control over, to do the best I can to stay the healthiest I can and to be as engaged as I can. But that's a big fear for me and a big challenge. And then also to see her steady decline. It's been about 9 years, and, she has trouble making sentences. She doesn't really know who I am. She's happy and she's sweet, but it's really, it's a tough thing to see your mother that way. Right. So that's probably my biggest challenge.
Right. It's so interesting that my next question is about asking you, how do you think that your relationship with your mom helps to shape who you are today?
Yeah. I actually just wrote a blog about that, and it was really all about her courage. She was a single mom of 4 children. The youngest one was 4 years old, and she got divorced. And, she was really my role model for, how do you do everything, alone? And, still tend to, your children and their needs. And then when she got Alzheimer's, just seeing that courage, and that, the frustration with knowing something's wrong, I'm not the person I used to be, and still forging on every single day is just really amazing. So I think that to be a parent takes a lot of courage.
Yes.
You have to be able to make mistakes and pick yourself up. You have to, sometimes do things you don't want to do or that you're afraid to do. And if you just keep acknowledging how courageous you're being, I think that's really helpful day in and day out to just keep going.
I agree. Thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you for your heart. Thank you for your life's purpose, really. Thank you for helping parents be better at parenting. I truly believe, just like you, that we have a lot of power and we can really make the world a better place. It really begins at home. Yeah. So before I let you go, can you tell everybody where they can find you, where they can connect with you? Now is the time for that.
Okay. So the name of my company is Parenting Matters NJ for New Jersey. And my website is parentingmattersnj.com. And I also have a Facebook page where I post articles and information. I also send out a parenting tip every Friday. So if anybody's interested in being on that email list, they could go to my website, and on the bottom of the homepage, there's a place to subscribe. And there's also ways that you can either private message me through Facebook or send me an email at lisa@parentingmattersnj.com. I frequently get calls from parents that are just kind of panicked in the moment saying, what should I do? And I usually can, kind of help them in that moment, and then, point them to where they can get some extra help. So I just want to say that I appreciate all the parents that are listening. I appreciate how hard you work and everything that you do. It truly does matter. That's the name of my company, Parenting Matters.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you so much for your time, Lisa.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you for listening to the Health Begins with Mom show. I love hearing from you, so please post your comments and questions over at healthbeginswithmom.com/podcast. If you love the show, please share it on social media and in your real life with other moms who might enjoy this content. And if you have a burning question or topic you'd like me to hit on the show, just drop me a line at dorit@healthbeginswithmom.com. And if you love this show and really want to support it, please go to iTunes, write a review, and subscribe. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you next time. Much love and many blessings.